Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Okay, in the second session, we will continue our journey to next set of slides. Relationship between classes. So in the previous session, we learned about how to write a simple program in Python language. Here, our main task is to define different relationship between classes. I'm talking about the inheritance and the. So in this diagram, you can see there are classes which are shown here. One is a person class and is a student class. As you can see, जैसा हम पहली क्लासेस में भी पढ़ चुके हैं, the definition of a class start with the class keyword and then the name of that class. And we can have a default initial in which we have written the person identity and then the identity is self.id. So this is the primarily identity we are talking about. And in the student class, student is associated with the GPA, okay, grade point average. So because of this inheritance, this relationship, student is a person, okay, but a can also be a student, person can be another, for example, can be father, person can be mother, person can be teacher, person can be employer or employee, for example, person can be teacher. So the other relation is not, that means this type of relation is not valid. Only this type of student is a person. Okay, this type of tip is shown here. So we define the student class, and student class is linked with the person class. With the person class, and in here we have the identity as well as the GPA. Okay, because student is a person, so it must have an identity, and because we know it's a GPA, so it should have a GPA. So when we define it, and one more thing here, you have already observed that in the initialization, we also call the init, the default function, default member function in the person class, which is this init, so that the the identity is assigned to a student and the GPA as well. So then we write self.gpa is GPA. So when we code this in this way, we can instantiate a student object as the object of the student class with the identity, and this is the identity of this student, and this is the GPA of that student. Okay, GPA, go to this GPA, and identity, go to this identity. And when we ask for, ask the we can get the different data and values by using student and student.gpa. So here one thing is important to note, that student.gpa is clear because student has primarily an attribute GPA. Okay, student has an attribute GPA, which store the grade point average of the student, a value. But here the student ID is primarily the identification which is given through the person class. So this is the only concept which is highlighted here, that two classes can be linked together. And how they are linked? That one class, for example here, we do not find any identification defined. ID is not defined here. ID is defined here, but we can access with the student class as well. So it looks that both class are merged together. दोनों classes आपस में merge हो गई, and this merger is through this student person. Okay, so this is primarily a link. We can create link in another way as well, but currently this is the link. So this is the link, and how it is primarily the detail of the link is specified with line number 4, the code of the line number 4, जिसमें हमने स्टूडेंट को कॉल किया है और स्टूडेंट को जो आइडेंटिटी असाइन की है वो आइडेंटिटी असल में एक पर्सनल आइडेंटिटी है. ओके, एक पर्सनल आइडेंटिटी. ओके, this is a very simple concept which links to classes with each other. अब हम इसको line by line देखेंगे. We will see this line by line. Again, first of all, this diagram is very important. This is called a class diagram, and this is part of UML, called Unified Modeling Language. So this class diagram contains two classes. So one class name is person with an attribute identity, and another class student with an attribute GPA. And these classes are linked together, linked in this form. Student is a person, okay, is a person. Student is a person. This is a link. Okay, so with class person, which is very easy thing because person only have the identity. We can identity as well. We return the self.id. Then we define the student class, the link, and the instantiation, so that whenever this class is called, then an identity and GPA is required, and that is primarily the identity goes to the person class, and then we can access this identity through student.id. So line number 1, class definition. Line number 2 is empty. Line number 3 is the definition of the default function, default member function, that takes one parameter input, which is the identification, and that it say that I can access this through self.id. That's all from this class. Now in this class, line number 1, it's a class definition, and this class definition is linked with the person class. and line number 2 is empty. Line number 3 is the definition of the default instance, a default member function, and default member function takes two parameters. Parameter 1, identity. Parameter 2, the GPA of the student. So whenever the identity is called, then the identity is assigned through the person class. We can simply write self.id is equal to identity. This will be sufficient for the student class. ठीक है, अगर मैं यहाँ पे लाइन नंबर 4 की जगह पे लिख दूं, self dot id is equal to identity. It will be sufficient. ये काफी होगा. But we want to show here that this thing is primarily linked to the upper thing, and it is nothing. It is just calling the person class and the dot mean the inside the person class this function with this parameter identity okay already given here, and then self.gpa is equal to gpa. We are already familiar with this. So this is the line by line through classes. Then we instantiate or initialize a student variable, which is the object, and this is linked this is an instance of student class with the identification and GPA, and we can access the information through student ID and student GPA. Okay, any question here? Okay, the code at this point in time is not important. I am not primarily taking an exam of you through coding. This is not primarily a competition towards how you program well. This is a competition how you learn the concept well. So I will give you this diagram and I will ask you that primarily describe that diagram, what this diagram means. And this diagram means there are two classes and they are linked together in a way that student is a person. This is your answer. And in the detail, person has a data member identity with a variable type. ये तो C language का है, लेकिन anyhow we can link Python as well. And similarly, student has a data member GPA minus this minus sign. Okay, remember. Okay, moving ahead. Now, this concept is built on the earlier concept, and this is also very easy when we primarily go through it. The same two classes, but now they have member functions as well. Remember, this is a data identity, data member, and it is private. Private means it is exist inside the class, only inside the class. Public mean we can access from the other classes as well. So these are the member functions. This is the data, this is the functions. Set identification and get identification. So we can get the identification of the person through this get function, and we can set the identification अगर हमने उसको change करना है, so we can set the identification as well. Similarly, for the student, we can have a set GPA and get GPA. So this is the complete class in which we have the name of the class, the data member, which are the private members, and the public members, which are the member functions. Functions, remember, they have brackets. Okay. Okay, now how we code them? हम इनको code कैसे करेंगे? Okay, first coding अगर आप देखिए class person same, ये चीज वही है जो अभी हम पढ़ के आए हैं. The same in the previous slide. Now we define two different member functions, and these are very simple. Define set identification, self new ID. Then the self ID, this self ID is become the new ID. So this will change the new ID. जो जो नया जो ID होगा वो असाइन हो जाएगा उस पर्सन को. Okay, we are talking about person. And I move quickly. Define the get ID. Get ID is nothing. It will not take any parameter. It just return the self dot ID. Okay, so that's it. Similar thing we need to do for the student class as well. As you can see in the student class, this thing is the same. Only we get these two definitions. New GPA. It is then assigned to the self.gpa new value, and similarly it returns the GPA value. That's all. So this is the implementation of these classes in Python. Okay, I stop here. Any question? Okay, students, any question?
सर ये हम पॉजिटिव और नेगेटिव साइन क्यों लगा रहे हैं?
अबरार, आपको
नेगेटिव आइडेंटिटी
पॉजिटिव और नेगेटिव साइन क्यों है? नेगेटिव मीन्स प्राइवेट, पॉजिटिव मीन पब्लिक. प्राइवेट क्या होता है? जैसे आपका सेल्फ आप किसी को नहीं देना चाहेंगे, दैट इज प्राइवेट. ठीक है. लेकिन पब्लिक क्या है? पब्लिक ये है आपका पेन है, आपका पेंसिल है, तो आप अपना पेन या पेंसिल जो है उसको आप दे सकते हैं किसी को कि ये आप लिख लें. कुछ दे देते हैं पेंसिल लिखने के लिए, पेन दे देते हैं लिखने के लिए, फिर वापस भी ले लेते हैं.
जी बिल्कुल.
ओके.
और सर ये जो हम क्लास पर्सन में थर्ड में जो हम सर उसको शो कर रहे हैं डेफ इन सेल्फ, सर इसको हम अगर सेल्फ डॉट ID लिख दें, ज़्यादा एक्सप्लेन ना करें सर, तो क्या सर प्रोग्राम में सर कोई फर्क पड़ेगा?
आप एक दफा अपना सवाल रिपीट करें.
सर मैं ये कह रहा हूँ कि जो
एक मिनट रुकिए, मैं आपको एनोटेशन दे रहा हूँ. आप एनोटेशन का इस्तेमाल करें और मुझे बताएं. ठीक है. जी, आप किस चीज की बात कर रहे हैं?
सर मैं क्लास पर्सन में जो थर्ड नंबर पे ना डेफ इंट और सेल्फ ब्रैकेट में सेल्फ कॉमा आइडेंटिटी लिखा हुआ है सर, हम अगर इसको सर सेल्फ डॉट ID इक्वल आइडेंटिटी पे ही कर दें, मतलब सर ये हम थर्ड नंबर सर ना लिखें इधर, तो सर उसको प्रोग्राम में कोई फर्क पड़ेगा?
प्रोग्राम में कोई फर्क
जैसे
देख लेते ना करके. अभी एक मैं प्रोग्राम इसको ओपन करता हूँ और उसमें चेंज करके देख लेते हैं. ये तो असल में जो प्रोग्राम है ये जस्ट इस क्लास की रिप्रेजेंटेशन है कि इसको ये लिखेंगे, दैट्स इट. इससे ज्यादा का कंसेप्ट नहीं है. लेकिन अगर आप इसमें कोई चेंज करके देखना चाहते हैं तो ये कोड आपके पास मौजूद है, स्लाइड्स में मौजूद है. आप इस कोड को टाइप कीजिए और टाइप करके देखिए कि आप उसमें जो है वो क्या चेंज कर सकते हैं. सेल्फ का मतलब बजाते खुद वही ऑब्जेक्ट
सर.
आप ये इस सेल्फ को अगर मैं सेल्फ डॉट ID अंदर लिख दूं तो ये कहना चाह रहे हैं आप?
जी सर बिल्कुल.
इसको अभी देख लेते हैं, इसको सेल्फ डॉट ID लिख के देख लेते हैं. ठीक है. उसकी वजह क्या है कि सेल्फ जो है ना ये इसका डिफॉल्ट है, ये तो देना ही पड़ेगा. इसका मतलब ये बजाते खुद ये जो ऑब्जेक्ट है ना इसकी बात हो रही है, इसको रेफर करता है. ये सेल्फ जो है
अच्छा. ओके सर, ओके समझ गया. थैंक यू सर.
को रेफर करता है. सेल्फ जो है, सेल्फ का मतलब है वो खुद को रेफर करता है.
सर बजाते खुद.
हाँ. बजाते खुद. अच्छा वो दिया. Okay, we stop here, and we primarily want to request the Dean Saab to come here any. Let me see if जो है वो available भी है या नहीं. ओके, हमने उनको कह दिया अगर वो ज्वाइन करना चाहेंगे तो वो ज्वाइन कर लेंगे. अभी हम सिर्फ और सिर्फ यहाँ पे इस चीज़ को जो अभी हम यही स्टॉप करेंगे. अब हम इससे ज़्यादा नहीं पढ़ेंगे, सिर्फ और सिर्फ इसको that's it. और एग्जीक्यूट करने की थोड़ी सी एग्जांपल्स हमने यहाँ बना दी हैं कि कैसे ये एग्जीक्यूट होगा और कैसे ये चेंजेस होंगी. ये अभी हम करके देख लेते हैं. ठीक है. ओके, वी आर मूविंग टुवर्ड्स द permanence. So we go to the number 6, and program number 6 is primarily is not well. Program number 7. Okay, class person and the class student starts from here. थोड़ा बड़ा कर लेते हैं इसको. That you can see. So first we execute this. So now the Python understand that there is a class with the name person, and अगर कोई इसको access करना चाहता है, then it has to provide an identification as the input. Okay. जैसे for example इसके साथ थोड़ी सी हम experimentation कर लेते हैं. Let's say there is a person 1 who is the instance of this person, and it has the identification, let's say 1 2 3 1 2 3 4. Okay, just run it. That is the instantiation. Now we want to see what is the person identification. So person1 dot id. So it says that the person1 dot id is primarily 1 2 3. It learns, उसने सीख लिया है ये. ओके, अगर मैं यहाँ लिखूँ कि person 2 equal to a person with the id 5 6 7 and 8, and I ask it also display the person2 dot id. Then it will it says some error. Let me write it in the print. Print is more object. Again, it says they giving some error. Okay, person2 is not defined. So person2 person PRS1 person2. We have defined the person2. Okay, I forget to actually execute this. उसको execute नहीं किया था. Let me execute this. मैं लिख तो लिया था लेकिन execute नहीं किया था. Now I have to run this as well. As you can see, it has written me. It has given me the ID of both persons. अगर मैं इसको हटा दूं, then it should print as well. Yes, it print this. So this is the how I can play with this. Now I just delete it both this one and this one, moving ahead towards the class student, which is primarily linked with the person class, and it has the instantiation in a way that the identification is primarily passed on. The identification इसको pass on करती है और self dot ID generate होती है through this primarily line. Okay, so I just execute it, and then I instantiate a student, let's say student 1 for example, with the identification this one, and I want to display the student 1 ID and student 1 GPA, because there are two things, student identification and student GPA. Okay, as you can see, it displays the student identification and also the GPA of the student. Now if I want to add another student, a different, for example 5, 6, 7, 8, 20, with a GPA for example 3.9, to execute it. Now it remembers two student names. Okay, so student 1 ID, student 2 GPA, I just copy paste it and write here student 2, give me the detail of student 2 as well. Okay, it provides me the detail of the student 2 only. So if I write it in a single line, okay, now it give me the detail of student 1 as well as student 2. So this is the way in which the initial inheritance is created. Now I'm moving ahead to the next program. This is the program number 7. In program number 8, I can actually go and not only I can do the same thing जो हम पहले कर रहे थे, but I can actually set the new ID, and also I can get the ID. Similarly, I can set the new GPA and also get the GPA. So when I experiment it with the student, so I just run it. Actually, I need to run this class as well. Then I need to run this. Okay, what is the shortcut of to run this? Okay, there's a shortcut. Okay, control enter. So I just have to put control enter, and it will run that set. And control enter, it will run this, and control enter will run this. Then control enter will run this. So I get the student identification and the student GPA. Now I want to get the student ID. It will give me the same result 1, 2, 3, 4. So control enter. I can get the GPA in a similar manner. Now I want to set a new ID to the student. 5, 8, 6. Let me write here 6, 7, 8, 9 and 2021. Okay. So control enter. Control enter. Now student has a different let me write here 3.8. Now this value should change to 6, 7, 8, 9, 20, 21 and 3.8. Yes. So as you can see, we can experiment with the code which is given below. I need to do a cleanup here so that it will not clutter. ये आपको भी मुझे शेयर करना है. ओके. अब आप कह रहे थे इसमें अगर कुछ चेंज कर दें तो लेट मेक a change here, self.id and run it. Yes, it gives an error and error is invalid syntax. ये जो लिखा है ये सही नहीं है. उम्मीद है कि आपको ये चीज समझ में आ गई होगी. So I have to run it again. No, it is okay. So we have gone through about 8 codes which I have written for you guys. और इनको भी मैं शेयर कर देता हूँ आपके जो है उस पे. Until now I have written about 13 codes. 14 is not complete. 13 codes for you. And these are very simple codes. और ये भी आपके जो shared है folder है उस पे मैं डाल दूंगा inside a code window. Okay, let me call the dean साहब. अगर dean साहब जो हैं वो आ जाते हैं. अगर वो नहीं आ पाते किसी वजह से तो then we can have another meeting with the dean साहब ना. मैं फिर आप लोगों को ग्रुप पे बता दूंगा. जी अस्सलाम वालेकुम सर. सर वो स्टूडेंट्स की तादाद थोड़ी कम है. अगर हम इनको शाम के टाइम में किसी टाइम में बुला लें. उनसे कांटेक्ट किया था. मैं उनको पिक कर लूंगा जब फ्री होऊंगा. चला. अच्छा चलें बेहतर सर. थैंक यू सर. अल्लाह हाफिज़. अल्लाह हाफिज़ सर. अस्सलाम वालेकुम. सर कह रहे हैं कि आपके सीआर जो है वो उनसे बात करेंगे. So then we have another session with the teacher as well. Now we now conclude our session today and recap that we have gone through primarily how to develop a Python program. और उसमें हमने सीखा कि किस तरीके से जो है हम step by step understanding the problem, algorithm, coding, then testing. So there are 4 different steps. और उसको फिर हमने करके देखा. फ्लो चार्ट देखा. फ्लो चार्ट कैसे. फ्लो चार्ट आपने सीखा था लास्ट जो आपका सेशन था उसमें. उसका हमने देखा कैसे फ्लो चार्ट को यूज करेंगे. फिर हमने उसमें एक्सेप्शन हैंडल करके देखा. इसके बाद इस सेशन में जिसमें हमने अभी 4 स्लाइड्स ही पढ़ी हैं. There are only 7 slides. लेकिन नेक्स्ट स्लाइड्स थोड़ी सी ज़रा चूँकि टिपिकल हैं तो they will be covered in the next section. अब आपके पास ये जो मटेरियल है ये आ चुका है. So I encourage to go through lecture slide number 5. Okay. So before the next class, go through lecture slides 5. ठीक है. तो मैं डीन साहब से दोबारा बात करूँ. अगर उन्होंने कहा कि एक सेशन में बात करना है तो फिर आप लोगों से रिक्वेस्ट करूँगा आप लोग एक सेशन में आ जाएं और रजिस्ट्रेशन करवा लें अपनी. क्योंकि अब LMS पे क्विज़ और जो असाइनमेंट्स है ऑनलाइन हो जाएंगी, ठीक है।
सर वो ये
क्वेश्चन
सर वो LMS कैसे ओपन होगा सर?
बेटा एलएमएस
मतलब
जब आप
कैसे
सीएमएस
होगा
में रजिस्टर
रजिस्ट्रेशन?
करवाएंगे ना, आप सीएमएस में जब कोर्स में रजिस्टर करवाएंगे तो फिर आप आगे
ठीक है सर।
आप CHUSIS में जाएं, आप अपने कोर्स रजिस्ट्रेशन कर लें। उसके बाद कुछ स्टूडेंट्स रजिस्टर कर चुके हैं तो बाकी के स्टूडेंट
सर
जल्दी रजिस्टर कर लें, ठीक है। तो आज की क्लास ये खत्म होती है। एनी क्वेश्चन, लास्ट क्वेश्चन, एनी अदर क्यूरी?
नो सर।
ओके, थैंक यू। अपना ख्याल रखिएगा। अल्लाह हाफिज।
ओके सर, अल्लाह हाफिज।